Right, so hello and welcome back to Books and Things. Today I'm going to be doing a quick tag video for you all, and I'm going to be doing the Little Women tag. This was created by Kate Howe. If you don't know Kate's channel, you should definitely go and have a look at it. It is so good and she really likes classics, so if you enjoy when I talk about classics, you will probably really enjoy her channel too. So the basic premise of this tag is that it's going through characters in Little Women and taking a kind of book inspired by that particular character from Little Women. So the first question is Marmee, the mother of the girls in Little Women, and for that one you have to pick a book that is wise and nurturing. And I have gone for this, which is All I Know Now by YouTuber Carrie Hope Fletcher. If you don't know, Carrie Hope Fletcher is a YouTuber and actress. I'll link her YouTube channel down below because it's really fun and very enjoyable to watch. She always puts a lot of positivity into the world through her videos. This is basically a book about growing up. Carrie is, I think, about the same age as me, and she wrote this quite recently. This came out last year, and it's basically just a book about growing up and what it is like to be a teenager, and about the kind of issues and problems a lot of teenagers face when they're that age. And I think it's a very, very wise book to have been written by someone so young. Even if you're not a teenager, it is just really enjoyable to read because it has a really fun, light tone and it's quite entertaining, and I just thought it was fun and very wise. A wise book. The next question is Jo. Now Jo is the central character in Little Women and she can be at times a bit frustrating. So this question is a character that you can't live with but also can't live without. And I have gone for Becky Sharp from Vanity Fair. I don't think I've really mentioned Vanity Fair before. Vanity Fair is a novel by William Makepeace Thackeray. It is a Victorian novel, but it is set a bit before the Victorian period. It's set kind of in the early part of the 19th century, and its kind of focal point, I guess, is the Napoleonic Wars. And the central character of Vanity Fair is a woman called Becky Sharp, who is infuriating and horrible but also so engaging and so brilliant, and you love her but you also hate her in such a clever way. The next question is from Meg and revolves around the particular incident in Little Women where Meg burns a manuscript of a novel that Jo has been working on for ages. So this question is pick a book that you accidentally damaged. So this is my collector's library edition of Nicholas Nickleby. As you can see, it doesn't look too bad, but then you take off the cover and I don't know what I did with this book, but somehow the writing on the spine is just completely gone, and normally there's gold writing here and it's just completely all faded, completely gone. I don't know where I took this book in my bag when I read it, but somehow all the writing has just gone. I do not know what happened, but there we go. Poor Nicholas Nickleby. And the next question is based on the character of Beth, who I think is probably my favourite character in Little Women, and that question is pick a cosy book. And for a cosy book I have gone for Pride and Prejudice because it never fails to make me smile and make me happy, and whenever I read it I get a warm glow in your chest that you get when you read a really good book that you really love and that just makes you happy. And I know it's not all utter joy in Pride and Prejudice, but it just makes me so thoroughly happy whenever I read it. It is a beautiful book and just really warms my heart so much. And next is, I think, my second favourite character in Little Women, which is Amy, and because Amy is slightly vain, her question is pick a pretty book, and I have gone for this beautiful book, The Fox and the Star. I know I've spoken about this quite a lot lately, but look at it. It is so utterly pretty and so beautiful. I love this book so much. Now question 6 is based around Mr. March, and Mr. March is absent for quite a lot of the book and tends to be a little bit forgotten. So Kate's question for this is, what is a book you are very embarrassed that you have forgotten? And I have to say, while I'm doing this tag, I have forgotten quite a lot of Little Women. I have read all 4 of the Little Women series. I've read Little Women, I've read Good Wives, I've read Jo's Boys, and I've read Little Men, but I just don't remember them that well. And when I think of Little Women and Good Wives, I am aware that what I'm actually thinking about is the 1994 film, which is brilliant. It is an adaptation that combines both Little Women and the sequel Good Wives, and is a really, really brilliant film. I love it. I think it's really good. And I remember when I read the books, I think I saw the film and read the books around the same time when I was about 14 or something, and I really enjoyed both of them. And I remember comparing them at the time, but that's about as much of the books as I remember. I know this all the more because I feel like I remember Little Women and Good Wives, but I remember nothing about Jo's Boys and Little Men. Absolutely nothing. Zero. I don't remember a single thing from both of them, though I know I definitely read them when I was about 14. And I remember I enjoyed Little Women. I especially enjoyed Good Wives. I think I preferred Good Wives to Little Women overall because I like seeing what they do as adults when they've grown up. But I did enjoy both books, but I just don't remember them. It's terrible. I've completely forgotten them. I think a reread must surely be in order because Kate Howe talks about how brilliant Little Women is all the time, and Melissa from The Bookish Babbler is always always talking about Jo's Boys and how brilliant it is, and I don't remember anything about it. So yes, definitely at some point in my life I need to reread the Little Women series because I just don't remember them. I'm sorry. The next question is based around Laurie. As I said, I don't remember Little Women that well, but I do remember Laurie, and again, I remember that I really liked him as a character, and he is, as Kate said, a very fun character. So this question is to pick a fun book, and I have picked this, which is Kate Beaton's Hark a Vagrant. This is a book of comics. A lot of them are like literary and historical comics. It's just absolutely brilliant and so hilarious. I mean, the first comic in this is called Dude Watching with the Brontes, and is just one of my favourite comics of all time. It is just one of the funniest things that have ever existed in the whole history of ever, and it is brilliant, and this is such a fun, wonderful book. Next question is for Professor Bhaer, who is one of the characters I have forgotten from Little Women. I genuinely do not remember this character in the slightest. I don't even remember him in the film. Maybe he wasn't in it. Maybe I've also forgotten the film. This is terrible. But the question for Professor Bhaer is the classic you are the most proud of reading. And I would say the classic I'm probably the most proud of reading is probably Paradise Lost. And there are lots of classics I've read which are longer than Paradise Lost, such as most of Dickens's novels, but I think Paradise Lost was a lot harder for me to get through, and it's one I'm proud of reading because it's one I didn't find easy to read. I love classics. I talk about this a lot, especially 19th century literature. I love it, and so I don't find it a chore to read, but Paradise Lost was not something I especially enjoyed reading. If you don't know, Paradise Lost by John Milton is an epic poem from the 17th century. It's kind of a rewriting of parts of the Bible and basically focuses on the fall of Satan and then what happens in the Garden of Eden, but often from Satan's perspective. In general, epic poetry is not my thing, and pre-19th century poetry is also not my thing. It's one of those pieces of literature that for me is very, very interesting from a literary perspective, but it's not very enjoyable or engaging from like a fun perspective. So I'm proud that I read it because it took me a lot of work and I didn't necessarily love it, but did get something out of it. And it's also one of those works of literature that's influenced a lot of literature since, so I feel like it's a really useful thing to have read, and it's really interesting to notice parallels and references to Paradise Lost in other works, even in things like His Dark Materials, which I think is an infinitely more enjoyable work than Paradise Lost, by the way, but it does take quite a lot from Paradise Lost, and that I think can kind of enrich the reading of His Dark Materials. And so yeah, I'm proud that I read Paradise Lost, even though it wasn't necessarily the most enjoyable experience. And the final question is John, who I vaguely remember from the book, and this question is to pick a sweet character or book. So I have gone for Little Dorrit by Charles Dickens, and for the character of Amy Dorrit, who is the title character, Little Dorrit. I love Little Dorrit. It is one of my favourite Dickens novels. You will see where it stands in my order at some point in the next few weeks when I do my Dickens series, but I think it's absolutely brilliant, and part of the reason why I love it is because of the character of Amy Dorrit. Amy Dorrit is a very sweet character in that she is well-meaning and loving and caring and really like nice and sweet throughout, but she's also very strong, and although she has that kind of sweetness that a lot of Dickens's female characters, especially his young heroines, have. But Dickens doesn't patronise Amy Dorrit in the way that he patronises some of his other heroines, especially in his early works, because she is so much more than just being sweet. She is also really strong. Amy Dorrit is one of 3 siblings, and her mother is dead and her father is in debtor's prison. So they all live in debtor's prison, but they can all come and go apart from her father, who is obviously kept there and cannot leave. And Amy Dorrit is in a way like the provider of the family. She's the only one with her head screwed on. She's the sensible one. She's the one that sits there and does the accounts. And I like that she's sweet and good, but she's also really clever. She's one of my favourite Dickens characters. So that basically brings me to the end of my tag. I hope you have enjoyed it. Please let me know if you have read any of these books and what you think of Little Women, if you have read it recently, or if, like me, you have read it a long time ago and kind of forgotten it. I'm not going to tag anyone because I'm not certain who has read Little Women and who likes it, but if people who I usually talk to in the comments, or just anyone, if you have read Little Women and you would like to do this tag, please do. I think it's a brilliant tag. So basically, consider yourself tagged if you like Little Women, and I'll be back soon with another video. Before I forget, my Q&A is still open until the 30th of January, so if you have any questions for that, put them down below. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll be back on Monday. Goodbye!